Hey friends, this is Karen from Blue Rooster Farm, and this evening I am getting ready to make some bacon cheeseburger soup. And I hadn't planned on doing this video, but I thought, hey, I'm gonna bring you along. So if you wanna see how I make bacon cheeseburger soup, stick around. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Well, I'm in the kitchen getting ready to make some soup for dinner tonight, and we just love to have soup because you can eat on it for a couple of days. You can freeze it. Andy loves to take it in his lunch, so soup is one of our go-to meals in the wintertime. So the first thing I'm going to do for our bacon cheeseburger soup is I'm going to take some bacon. And now my bacon is folded up like this, because I freeze it like this. So what I do is I take a piece, I fold it in half, and then I just roll it up. And then I put all of those pieces in a plastic bag just like this. Because Andy and I can't eat a whole package of bacon, but we can go out and take out some of these pieces like this in the plastic bag when they're frozen and fry them up. So I took out several pieces, and we a lot of times will get our bacon in a big bulk box and just freeze it up for the season. It will last just fine for at least 6 months in your freezer, but it's usually gone by then. So I'm going to start with some bacon, and again, I'm just explaining to you, and again, this is the reason it's folded. So I'm just going to lay it out in the, I'm just using a Instant Pot just because I want to just cook it over here and not on my stove. It's a little easier for you to see. And I'm just laying it in my pan so that I can get it fried up real quick. And we're going to use the oil to flavor. And then I'll take the crispy bacon out and we'll have that chopped up and added to our soup. So I've just got it in my pan. I've got it on saute, and I'm just going to let that start sizzling. Now, while that is sizzling, I went ahead and I chopped up my veggies, but you could be chopping your veggies. We're going to have onions, we're going to have carrots, we're going to have celery, we're going to have some frozen parsley that I had in my freezer. I still had some oregano out in the garden, so I went and picked that and chopped that up. I also have some cheese. I'm using my canned potatoes, and I'm using some burger that I have just thawed from the freezer. So I've got all of that stuff laid out. I will be adding some cheese and some beef broth and a few other seasonings as well. But this is what we're going to start with, and I'm going to get this fried up, and then I'll bring you back. While the bacon is frying up, I wanted to bring you back real quickly, because what is a bacon cheeseburger without a bun? So instead of using crackers with this soup, we're going to use toasted and buttered croutons. And what I did was I just took some of our homemade bread and just sliced it and made it into nice sized cubes. And I've got some olive oil and some butter melted over here. And it all depends on how much bread you have to how much oil. This is 3 slices. And this is about 1/4 of a cup of butter and a couple tablespoons of olive oil. And to this, I'm going to add a little bit of Italian seasoning. And you can decide what kind of seasonings you like for your croutons. We just like ours kind of Italian seasoning. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of garlic. And I'm just using garlic powder or granulated garlic. And then I'll also salt them once they are toasted. So I've got that in here. All I'm gonna do is add the bread. And I'm gonna add these crumbs too because they'll be fine. They won't look as pretty, but they'll still taste good. And I'm just going to be tossing these around in this butter, and I'm going to toast them on the stove. So I will show you these at the end when we're serving up our soup. My bacon is just about ready. So I'm going to get a paper towel and a plate to put this on. And then we're going to start cooking our burger and sauteing some of those vegetables with it. Okay, so I just take a plate that has napkins on it and just throw that in there like so. And if you have little pieces left in there, that's fine. And we're going to leave all that oil for flavor. We'll take the oil out after the hamburger's browned. So let's first add our burger. And this is 1 pound. And I still have this on saute. I'm gonna go ahead and add to that my onions. And I've got either one large chopped up onion, and it's a sweet onion, but you can use whatever you like. Or you can use 2 smaller ones. It's all a matter of your taste. If you don't like onions, you don't have to put it in, but it's gonna change the flavor. But it's up to you. This isn't something that's gonna make or break the soup, but it definitely does make it really good. So we're gonna throw the onions in there. And I've got 2 stalks of celery. I'm gonna throw that in there. And that's just chopped up pretty small. And I've got, I believe, 2 regular sized carrots, and I'm gonna add those. And I didn't just slice them, I quartered them or halved them depending on the size of the carrot. So we're gonna mix all of that up real good. And I have some burger that's not quite as lean, and I believe this is what I've got here. So we'll probably have quite a bit of fat to take off of that, but we'll take that off when it's all fried up here. So I'm gonna get this browned and all of the veggies caramelized and kind of softened. The onions should become translucent, and then I'll bring you back. All right, it looks like our onions are pretty much translucent. Our ground beef is browned, and I'm just getting all that good stuff off the bottom and letting that go into our meat mixture. And I'm going to drain this. We have oil on it. And then I'll bring you right back. I've drained off the grease from our burger, and now we're going to add a few other things to it. Now, I had dried tomatoes this year, and I just froze them dried like this. You don't have to freeze them, but I did just to keep them fresh. And so I just chopped some of those up, and this is a totally optional ingredient, but you know, it's like a bacon cheeseburger with a slice of tomato on top. So we're going to add that. You know, if you wanted to add a chopped up tomato to it, that would be fine too. But again, that was just totally optional. I just thought that would be good in there. Then we also want to add a little bit of pepper. Now I'm going to wait for my salt because I have some beef broth and I want to see how salty it is first. So I'm going to hold off on salt until I test it with the beef broth. Then we're going to add a little bit of mustard. Now, if you don't have the dried mustard, you could use a nice squirt of regular mustard. But of course, we always like to have some mustard on our burgers. And that's about 2 teaspoons. And since I didn't chop up a clove of garlic, I'm going to add a little garlic. Okay. So we're going to mix that in. And then I'm going to add some beef broth. And you can use bouillon, or whatever you'd like. That I think is about, I think that's probably 4 cups, like a quart of broth. So I'm going to start with that, and I can add more. My potatoes have some liquid in it. Now I'm using my canned potatoes because they are so easy to use in soups, and they taste great in soups because it's the same texture you'd have with a potato that you added to it. So, but if you don't have your pre-chopped, pre-cooked, canned potatoes, you can of course go ahead and peel and chunk up some potatoes at this point and put them with this broth and go ahead and cook them until tender. That would be fine. But since these are already cooked and soft, we can just make sure they're heated through. And that's what we are doing. We're continuing to keep it hot. I'm going to add some Worcestershire sauce and probably about a tablespoon. I'm going to add some of our fresh oregano, and this right here, let's see, I've chopped it up. That right there was 1/4 cup of fresh, probably a tablespoon or so, a teaspoon or tablespoon of oregano if it's dried. You know, it's whatever, you know, you like. Some people don't care for oregano, so it's all the flavor you like. And then here I have about 1/3 cup of fresh chopped parsley. I'm going to add that. That was what I had in the freezer. Add that. And then we're going to get this hot. If you like to have just a little bit of a kick to your soup, you can add some hot pepper, cayenne, just a teeny tiny bit of cayenne. It won't really give you the flavor, but there'll be just a little heat that you really won't taste if it's just like 1/8 of a teaspoon or so. I'm just going to use some of my green jalapeno, and again, probably 1/8 of a teaspoon, not much. I just want to have just a tiny bit of zing to it. You probably won't even tell that it's hot and spicy, but you'll just notice there's just a little bit different taste. So we're bringing this to a boil, and once this is at a boil, we are going to thicken it up and add the cheese. And I think I'm going to add just a little bit more broth. And that was about 5 cups altogether. 5 cups of broth altogether. So So right now you can see that this is a nice chunky soup. It's looking really good. I'll bring you back when this is all heated through and boiling, and we'll finish her off. Our soup is coming back to a boil, so while this is getting hotter, we're going to go ahead and make our thickener. And what I have here is probably about a half a cup of flour. And I'm going to take to this flour and put some milk in it. And I've probably got just 3/4 cup of milk I've probably added to that. And it's cold, so we want to mix these two together. You never want to add something hot to your flour. It will lump it up really quickly and cause you to have something very lumpy. But we're just going to stir this up real quick. And this is our thickening agent. Now you can always make a roux with your flour and oil, and then add your liquids to make a gravy or a thickener. Or you can thicken by putting flour and a liquid, milk or water, or even broth, and stirring it together. You could also use cornstarch if you'd like, or if there's a favorite thickener that you like, that would be fine too. And so this is pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and thin it out just a little more, just so that when I pour it in, it won't lump up. It'll be nice and creamy in there. I just wanted to stir it with a little less milk so that it's easier to get the lumps out. Mix all of this together. And once your soup is back to a boil, what we're going to do is we're going to pour this in, and we're going to stir it up and get it nice and thick. So I've got 2 cups of milk here, and I use part of it for our thickener. The rest of it, I'm going to just add it to our soup because we're going to make this creamy. Remember, it's cheeseburger. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to add this, but I'm going to be stirring as I add it. Whoops. Now, if you ever get it where it's too thick, you can always add more liquid, more milk, and that will thin it out. If it's not thick enough, just make some more up and add that. As you can see, we're getting it nice and thick here. Now, if you remember the video I did on cream, I told you that I like to use cream in soups too. And so I took out 4 of the cubes that I had frozen from our cream video, and that's going to make this a nice, rich, creamy soup. So I'm adding those 4 cubes of cream, and this is totally optional. If you have regular cream, you could add a little of that. It would probably be about a 1/3 cup. So we're gonna add that there, stir it up. And like I said, if your soup is too thick, you can always thin it down with extra liquid. We like a nice, thick, chowdery soup. And there's still some cream in there melting down. I'm gonna add our bacon, but I'm gonna reserve a little bit to sprinkle on top. So just about a tablespoon I kept out. I'm gonna give this a taste before I add our cheese and make sure my seasonings are correct. I believe the salt level is just fine, and I'm going to be adding cheese, so that's going to be making it more salty. But if you need more salt at this point, this is when you can add it. I think I'm going to add just a little more fresh cracked pepper. Tastes really good. Doesn't that look good? Okay, so I'm gonna add our cheese. And we're gonna add, let's see, that's probably 1 cup. And there's 2 cups. 2 cups of grated cheese, any flavor that you like. This is probably a Monterey Jack and cheddar, but it's just whatever I had on hand. And we're just going to turn off the heat now because we do not want it to cook now past, once you add the cheese, if you cook it too much, it will start to curdle. And I believe we are ready to dish this up. Just gonna make sure it all is melted and incorporated. Get it nice and smooth. If you want a thinner, like I said, if you want a thinner soup, this is the time you would just add a little more milk or broth. But I think this is perfect for us. Let's serve this up here. We're gonna add a few ladlefuls of our soup. Doesn't that look good? Now, let's sprinkle a little bacon on it. And a little bit of cheese. And how about a few croutons? That's gonna make it. And why not just another little tomato in there? And there you go. There is what's for supper tonight. This is going to be a great soup for a cold night. If you enjoyed watching this and other Blue Rooster Farm videos, please consider subscribing. That would help me out a lot. Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Have a great week.